All right, so welcome to Thursday night yoga. If you haven't come to my class before, it's a lot of gentle movement, a lot of breath work. Just make sure to use this time and kind of respecting your own body tonight, so do what feels good for you. And I'll give kind of cues as we go as well. So we'll start lying on our backs tonight. So if everybody finds yourself in a nice comfortable position lying on your back. And as we're finding that space here, I'm just taking a second to tune into the breath tonight. So just taking your moment to find yourself comfortable and supported. Any wiggles that you need, any kind of shoulder rolls or toe movements, just to kind of find that connection to the body here as we're lying on our back. And as we're lying on the back, just tuning into the connection with the body onto the ground. So can you feel the back of the head, the back of the shoulders, back of the elbows. And just taking the time here to come into that breath. And come into that body awareness with the breath. So taking a nice deep breath in through the nose and out through the nose. In through the nose. Out through the nose. Just slowing your breath down. Just taking a few moments here at the end of your day to just kind of let that day digest. And just tuning into kind of what brought you here tonight. Alright, hey Socrates. We're starting on our back here, so if you just lie on your back, that'd be great. Perfect. Alright, so just using that breath awareness here, going to take a nice deep breath in through the nose. And out through the nose. Good, nice breath in through the nose. Out through the nose. One more breath in here, in through the nose. And out through the nose. Wonderful. We're going to take that nice big breath and reach the arms up overhead as we're lying down here. So nice full body stretch as we're lying down. Really stretch those toes, stretch the fingers. Almost kind of think of lifting with the arms, reaching with the legs. Nice big breath in. Exhale, come into a little ball. So bring those knees towards the chest. Let your hands wrap around the shins. Hug yourself into a little ball here. Give yourself a little cuddle. With our next inhale, we're going to release again. Reach all the way back. So arms behind you, legs away. Full stretch, supported on the ground here. Take a nice deep breath in. Exhale again. Knees into the chest. Hands just wrapping around the shins if that's available to you. One more breath in again, reaching the arms behind you, legs reaching out. A nice full breath in. And exhale, hugging those knees into the chest again. And then relax the feet onto the floor as you relax the head onto the mat. So feet here about hip width apart. Feet are flat into the ground. And arms can be bent. So the arms are in kind of cactus arms, as we say. So the elbows are just bent. Chest kind of open so the arms are flat on the ground, shoulders on the mat. If that's comfortable, the hands can always be alongside the body if that's better. You're going to have the feet a little bit wider, so kind of walk the feet a little bit closer to the outer edges of the mat here. Take a deep breath in. On your exhale, bring the knees towards the right side of the mat. So you're going to let those knees fall over to the right side of the mat. And as we're doing this, trying to keep that left shoulder glued onto the floor. So both shoulders should be supported on the floor. If you're in cactus arms with the elbows bent, the back of the elbows, the back of the hands are supported on the ground here. And just keeping that connection with that nice, slow, long breath. Take an inhale in, exhale, release. On the next inhale, bring the knees in through center, and use the exhale to transition the legs over to the left side of the mat. Good. Again, just pausing here and using that breath awareness. So the big thing with yoga is tapping into that breath connection. Helps connect that mind, body a little bit better. So we'll see tonight if we can move slowly and if you can use that breath to guide each movement. Using that breath to find the nice balance between effort and ease as we're going through these poses. Another inhale in, knees come back in through center, exhale over to the right side again. Staying for one breath cycle in here as we inhale and exhale. On the next inhale, bring the knees in through center and exhale over to the left. Again, pausing for a breath cycle here as we inhale in and exhale. Let the knees come back in through center. Good. Keeping both knees bent here, we're going to support that right knee in towards the chest. That left knee can stay bent. Just give your right knee a little bit of movement. So you're just kind of supporting a little massage in that right hip socket. So you can do a little half circle around the hip. Your hands can guide the movement. Just awakening that right hip joint a little bit. Just little baby circles here. Just saying hello to this right hip. And then we're going to pause with some stillness, and we're going to bring that right foot over the left thigh and open that right knee out. We're going to not use our hands, just use the effort of the legs to open that right knee out. So those right toes are flexed up towards the ceiling. That right knee is kind of pushing towards the back of the room, trying to open up that hip a little bit farther. The elbows can stay in that cactus arm if you like that, so elbows can stay bent. And again, trying to keep the connection of the shoulders and the back onto the mat here. Using that breath to find that opening. So again, using that inhale. As we exhale, come a little bit deeper, so a little bit more activation to see if you can open that right hip a little bit farther with your own effort here. Again, keeping that nice breath connection. And we're going to come into a little bit of a deeper twist using that right foot to support the left over. So we're going to take an inhale in. Exhale, let the knees drop over to the right side so that right heel is kind of supporting that left thigh down towards the floor. If that feels too intense, you can always drop that right foot onto the ground so both feet are just onto the floor and knees are towards the right side. Or you can keep that right heel on top of that left thigh, and it just kind of helps to push that left thigh down. Again, keeping the connection to the spine onto the mat, so making sure that left shoulder is staying glued onto the mat. So we're keeping that twist primarily in that lower body here. And keeping that breath awareness. So you're allowing yourself to feel the support of the twist to the right side. And taking one more inhale in. On your exhale, bring that right foot down to the floor if it's not already, and then bring both knees up in towards the ceiling, so both feet are kind of on the floor, both knees are towards the ceiling, knees bent. Inhale, left knee comes in towards the chest. Again, you can support your hands around the top of the shin or around the back of the left thigh, and come into a little massage in that hip socket, so kind of move that leg. Little semicircles. Little full circles. Just kind of give yourself a little bit of massage, a bit of awakening into that left hip here. And trying to move with that awareness. You can always keep your eyes closed here to kind of tap into that shoulder connection. And then pausing any movement across that left foot over that right thigh. Start to open up that left hip out towards the back of the room or the back of the mat. Get an option to bend those elbows, just have a little bit of a chest opener, letting those elbows and back of the hands support themselves on the ground in an elbow bent position if that's comfortable. And tapping yourself back into the position so you feel both hips onto the floor. Can you feel that left hip starting to open, that left knee kind of pushing towards the back of the mat just a little bit. Helps to kind of open up that left hip joint a bit more. And taking some nice deep breaths here. Just slowing down for a moment. I'm going to use that breath connection to move into that twist towards the left side. So take a breath in. On the exhale, let yourself fall over towards the left side. Left foot's just supporting that right thigh down towards the floor. And going as deep as feels comfortable for you. Again, trying to maintain the connection. Keeping the upper back onto the mat. And the head just staying in the center, looking up towards the ceiling. Always have the option to release that foot down to the floor. That feels a bit too deep for you. Just taking that pause here. And taking one more breath in. Exhale, release that left foot on towards the mat and both knees come back up in towards center. Good. You can kind of rock the legs left to right here just a little bit. Feel up those hips. And then hug the knees in towards the chest again. Come into a little ball. You can rock left and right here. I'm going to rock all the way over towards one side. So whatever you feel comfortable leaning towards one side. So we're coming up into a tabletop position here. So finding yourself in tabletop position. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Coming into the connection with the hands first. So spreading those fingers nice and wide so the fingers are spread onto the mat. Feeling a little bit more connection towards that thumb pad and kind of index finger just so you feel a little bit of support through the wrists here. And tuning into what's happening at the shoulders. Are you kind of dumping and letting your chest fall to the floor? Can you think of pushing a little bit of effort into the arms, lifting a little bit up through the backs of the shoulder blades, and wrapping those armpits in towards each other just slightly so you feel that extra connection into the shoulders. From here, you'll feel that connection in towards the belly as well. You'll have a bit more of a stable tabletop position. Good. Coming into our favorite cat-cow, or at least my favorite cat-cow. We're going to inhale, looking forward, belly button drops towards the floor, coming into cow pose. And exhale, curling the chin under, tucking the tailbone under as we're coming into cat. So moving nice and slowly between these two movements, letting that breath guide you. So I always let you do this on your own time, so you can kind of move as slow as you're able to. Move with as much breath connection as you can. I'm trying to really tune into where your movement's coming from. Do you feel like you're kind of stuck in the lower back or stuck in the upper back? Can you try to move through each segment of the spine with control? See how that changes the way the spine feels. I always suggest you kind of add your own rendition into your cat-cow to make it feel good for you. So sometimes a little wiggle, a little head nod, whatever works. And then coming back into that tabletop position. Walk yourself back so your heels are coming back towards the heels. Hips coming back towards the heels here. So you're sitting up nice and tall into the knees. Interlace those fingers. Spread the fingers away from you. Nice stretch into the arms here. Let yourself round through the spine as well so you get a nice kind of cat version here. And taking a breath in, we're going to release the hands, open the chest forward, and interlace the hands behind the back now. Interlace those fingers, spread the chest. Good. taking one breath in. Exhale, release. Just shake with those hands for a little bit. Give yourself a little bit of awakening into the hands. Coming back on towards that tabletop position. You can always have a blanket here underneath the knees if that's not comfortable for you. So again, if we have our blocks, keep your blocks towards the front of the mat just so our transition becomes easier if you want to use the blocks as we keep going here. So coming back into our tabletop position, hands under shoulders, again, wrapping those armpits in towards each other so we have a bit more connection to the shoulders here. You're going to inhale, that right leg comes back behind you and those toes curl under. So toes curl under on that right foot. So you're bringing the heel, hopefully you can see me here. You can bring the heel towards the back edge of the mat. So as we're here, you should feel that stretch in the back of that right calf. Again, keeping the connection to the arms. So where did the position or kind of where did that weight distribution go? Are you feeling even between left and right sides? Or you may be shifting towards that left hip now. Can you keep your weight even so both hips are facing evenly towards the ground here? Can you find some length in the back of the neck? Is that neck getting lazy? Keep that neck lifted, chin slightly tucked. So if I dropped a marble down your spine, it would just perfectly roll down towards your sacrum. And taking that nice breath connection here, you can always come a little bit deeper into that stretch, deeper into that calf stretch. Using that breath to guide you. Taking one more breath in. As we exhale, we're going to lift that right leg off of the ground. So using that core engagement here, right leg lifts up off the floor. So we're in a nice long line. And if you want here, you can always come up onto your blocks for a little bit of support, because we're going to bring that knee in towards the feet and step your feet through. Good. So you're finding that nice kind of half kneeling position onto the mat here. The back toes can uncurl if you want to keep that back of the foot flat onto the floor. Coming up, so our hands are on the hips here. We're going to do a little bit of a hip wiggle, just to kind of get some connection to where our hips are in space here. So I want that right thigh to kind of sink back into that right hip socket, left hip a little bit more forward. So both hips are facing forward towards the front of the mat here. Coming back down to the blocks or towards the ground, so whatever kind of depth you feel works for your body tonight. And again, if you don't have blocks, pillows, anything with a little bit of height, so get a bit more connection into the legs here. And again, maintaining that right hip back, left hip forward a little bit. And taking a nice deep breath in here. As we exhale, we're going to release our arms all the way up overhead, so reaching the arms up nice and tall. Good, fingers spread. And a little bit of a lunge forward, so a little bit of a shift forward into the hips. Feeling a little bit of an opening on that left hip flexor here. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, transition the hands down towards the blocks or down towards the floor. Left hand stays onto your block or onto the ground. We're going to inhale, right arm lifts up towards the ceiling. So coming into a little twist here towards that right side. Trying to keep that right shoulder reaching back behind you. Shoulder down the back slightly. Again, lengthen the back of the head so chin slightly tucked here. If you're comfortable in the neck, you can always look gently up towards that hand as long as you're not kind of cranking on the neck too much there. Taking one more breath in. Exhale, release that hand down towards the blocks, right hands onto the blocks or onto the ground. Curl those left toes under here. We're going to reach the left knee up off the floor. So coming into our low lunge here, so that left leg is nice and active. That right knee is just over top of that right ankle. Again, tuning into your hips. What happened to your hips here? Did you lose the connection? So if you did, try to think of that right hip back and towards that socket. Good. Just taking a breath in this low lunge, finding a bit of strength in those legs here. Inhale in. Exhale, that left knee comes back onto the floor. We're going to walk our right foot out. So you're going to lift the right arm up with block if you like, and walk the right foot out towards the outer edge of the mat. So both arms are inside that left leg, or that right leg now. I'm gonna face the camera just so you can see a bit better here. So we're coming into a little bit more hip opener here. So that right leg's out, right toes open a little bit towards the outer edge of that mat. So that knee just follows over the right ankle and over the right toe direction here. So both hands are on the inside here. You can come into your depth. And so you can kind of find some space. You might need to walk that right foot forward a couple inches just to kind of ease into that hip a little bit more. And finding your own kind of depth here. So if you do want to go a little bit lower, you can always change your block position. You can always come down onto your forearms, onto your blocks, or onto your props, or down towards the floor. So we're just coming into a little bit of a deeper hip stretch here. Left hip, staying nice and open to the hip flexor. You feel a little bit of work into that right inner groin. And try not to lose too much of the arms here too. So if you feel like you're kind of putting a lot of weight into the wrist, a lot of weight into the arms, where can you find some softness? Where can you find a little bit of support from the core to support the upper body here as well? Good. Just taking a moment here. And being patient with that stretch. And you're going to slowly come out of it. So if you kind of move that right foot forward, you can always inch that right foot back a little bit. So you get enough space to open your hands on the outside of that right leg. So we're coming back into the beginning of that half kneeling position now. Bring that right knee back towards our tabletop position. So we're back in business. All right, again, coming into your little movement here. Your own expression of your cat-cow. So take a breath in. Reach the chest forward, belly button drops, and as you exhale, round through the spine. Good. Again, coming with your own movements. If you want to do any hip wiggles here, any neck movements, shoulder rolls, just make it your own, make it feel good for you. And let's get to work on that left side. So again, finding the connection into the hands here. So into that kind of thumb mound, index finger, wrap armpits in, nice expression through the shoulders. Left leg reaches back, left toes curl under, and left heel presses down towards the mat. Trying to feel for that left calf stretch here. And again, tuning into what's happening with the weight distribution. Are we feeling even through left and right hands? You're shifting your weight over to one side of the mat. Can you keep that pelvis facing down towards the ground? And we keep that breath connection here too. Using the breath to guide that intensity. You always have the option to kind of reach the heel a little farther back if you want to deepen the stretch. Or soften the heel a little bit away if you want to lighten it. Again, play with your depth, play with what feels good for the body. Okay, transitioning with that control, so a little bit of control into the belly as we lift that left leg up off the ground, reaching it towards the ceiling. Bending the knee in towards the chest as we reach that left foot between the hands on the other side. Again, using your props for as much or little support as you need. We'll come up nice and tall, hands into the hips. Give yourself a little hip wiggle here, so kind of rotate the pelvis forward and backwards, just so you can figure out where it is in space. So again, that left hip's kind of sucking back and towards the socket as that right hip goes forward to level out the pelvis here a little bit easier. Hands come back down to the floor or back down to the blocks, maintaining that position. Left foot is evenly planted onto the floor here. And taking that breath in. As we exhale, release the hands, arms come up overhead. Nice tall spine as the hands reach towards the ceiling. You can lunge a little bit deeper towards that right side so you can kind of open up that right hip flexor on your own will here. Being mindful not to dump that low back, so nothing kind of too loosey-goosey here. So we're moving through that pelvis, kind of shifting forward versus that low back bending. I'm trying to feel even here, so a little bit of core support also helps to keep that body level. And take a deep breath in. Exhale, hands come back down towards the ground. So right hand stays onto the block or onto the floor. As we inhale, left arm reaches up towards the ceiling. Again, tuning into that connection with the spine, so keeping that chin locked in a little bit if you decide to look up towards that top hand. And keeping that breath connection here. The elbow can also be bent if you don't want to rotate from the full shoulder. You can always keep the elbow a little bit bent there. Taking a nice inhale here. And exhale, hands come back down to the floor. Starting to walk that left toe under here and reaching that right knee up off the floor. So right toes tuck under, my apologies. Right knee lifts up off the floor, coming into our low lunge expression. Just a bit more active right leg here. Again, left foot stays planted onto the floor, left knee over left ankle. And using that breath here. And be mindful of those hands. Are we dumping into those blocks or towards the ground too much? So find some softness in the shoulders, a bit of connection into the core. So we're not kind of pushing in too much from that upper body. One more breath in. Exhale, right knee comes down to the floor. Back that foot can just rest onto the floor. We're going to walk that left foot out, so we're going to walk that left arm in towards the inside of that left leg. Again, left ankle on a slight angle kind of towards the mat, to the outer edge of the mat here, just so that knee can kind of trace over towards the foot. We don't want the knee collapsing in or out, just to stay over that ankle here. So again, finding your depth that works for your hips here. If you want to walk that right left toes a little bit forward, the lunge a bit deeper, we can. Trying to maintain that connection with that breath, connection with what feels good for the body here. And you always have the option to go a little bit deeper as you kind of move down towards the forearms, if that's something that you want to explore further. And just finding that breath connection once you get there. Good. If you are lower, just slowly come back up towards your hands, or you're a bit taller. You can walk yourself back a little bit so you can walk your left hand over that left leg and come back into our tabletop position. Give your hips a little bit of a rock out. You can come into a little bit of a cat-cow. Just move through a little bit here. Good. And then we're going to come up into our standing position, so we can curl those toes under. If you want to come through a downward dog, you can. If not, you can just make your way up to nice and tall standing position. For a down dog, hands are onto the floor, nice and active. Elbows, again, curling in, so armpits tucking in. Lifting those toes under, knees lift up, hips come towards the back of the room. And you can just pedal out the feet there. See how those legs are feeling. And if you're pedaling out, just walk slowly towards the front of the hands here. And slowly lift yourself up, coming into mountain pose at the front of the room. So our mountain pose, feet are spread apart, palm is facing forward here, a little bit of bend in those knees. A little bit of connection to the ground here. You can kind of find your space in your feet by shifting your weight forward and back until you feel yourself fully supported onto the ground here. Again, tuning into that body connection. So mountain pose has a lot of things to think about. Tailbones tucking under slightly, palms facing forward, shoulders back a little bit as that chin tucks in. You can close the eyes here if you'd like to find that breath connection. And just taking a couple moments here in our standing position. Taking one more inhale. And as you exhale, we can open the eyes, kind of heel toe the feet coming together. So the big toe mounds start together, heels slightly apart. Take a deep breath in as we reach the arms up overhead. And exhale, hands in through heart center. Take a deep breath in, arms reach up. And exhale, hands in through heart center. And deep breath in, arms reach up. This time, arms stay overhead here. Interlace those fingers, big fingers or kind of index fingers release. And then reach those arms up towards the ceiling as we're standing here. Just crouch down so you guys can see me. Take a deep breath in. As we exhale, reach over towards that right side. So we're coming into a nice side bend as we're stretching onto that left side body. As we're moving towards the right side. And taking a breath in. And exhale, come a little bit deeper if that's available. Take a deep breath in. And exhale, release to the top. Hands release down. Leave your arms a little bit of a shake out here. And then with that next inhale in your own time, inhale the arms up. Again, interlace those fingers. Release the index finger. Find some length in the spine here as we're reaching nice and tall. And you exhale over towards that left side. So you feel the hips moving towards that right side. Again, opening that right side body, breathing into that right side rib cage here. And again, inhaling, you find your space. And exhale, move into that space if that feels good. Okay, take one more breath in. Exhale, release nice and tall. Release the hands. Give your hands a little bit of shake out there. Perfect. And we're going to come down towards the ground here. So we'll take a nice deep breath up overhead, reaching the arms up overhead. And then exhale, bend forward from the knees and work yourself down to sit on towards the mat. Good. And coming into here, we're coming into a little forward fold onto the mat. So you're going to walk your feet nice and wide. So I'll come facing the camera here. So find your kind of sits bones, and so if you feel like you can't really sit up nice and tall, you might need a little lift. You might need to grab your block prop, a blanket prop, a pillow, a rolled up blanket, and just kind of sit forward a little bit to let yourself sit a bit higher into the pelvis here. Otherwise, if you're able to sit nice and tall through the pelvis, sits bones rooting down towards the floor, shoulders back, again, back of neck nice and long. So finding the connection here. You're going to peel those feet towards you. So kind of bring those feet towards you so the toes are coming up towards the ceiling. You feel a little bit of connection to the heels. The heels root down towards the floor here. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, start to walk your hands alongside the legs. So you're kind of reaching for what feels comfortable for you that lets you keep the length in the spine. And you can start hinging forward, moving from that hinging position from the hips versus letting the spine round. So keeping that connection with the hips here. Again, trying to keep a little bit of connection through the shoulders, so shoulders are staying back. A little bit of effort through that upper body. You can almost think of pulling a little bit. You want to activate those arms farther. So as we find that breath connection here, we're breathing in. Find that space. And as you exhale, you can see maybe you can go a little bit farther from the hips. Keeping those feet nice and engaged, so feet facing up towards you. Heels kind of pushing into the floor. Feel those hamstrings firing up here. And just using that breath connection. Good. And taking one more breath here. And exhale, soften a little bit farther. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, start to walk yourself back up nice and tall if you walked your arms forward. And walk those legs in towards each other as well. You're going to keep that nice tall position again, those toes facing up towards you, either side of your hands alongside the mat. So there could be a little bit of space in those hips, just so we're keeping the thighs kind of hip width apart here. Again, lengthen the spine, shoulders back, a little bit of height here. Take a breath in. And reach that right knee under as you bend that right leg. So trying to keep that space as we're bending here. We're going to come into a little bit of a twist here. Going to take an inhale in. Exhale, hug that left arm around the right thigh. So you can kind of come as much as you want to, as much as you can, as we inhale and twist towards the back of the right side, guiding yourself with that right shoulder. So you're moving nice and slow and controlled. Keeping that spine nice and tall to twist from. So don't hunch yourself forward and then twist, because that might hurt your back. So keep yourself nice and long in the spine. And just find your twist from there. And that left hand can support that right knee as much as it wants to. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, come back into center. Straighten that right leg out and bend that left leg in. Again, nice and tall through the hips, nice and tall through the spine. Take a breath in. Hug with your right hand around that left thigh as you keep that spine nice and tall, and start to twist on your exhale, guiding yourself with that left arm, left shoulder behind the back. Just coming into your own breath connection here. One more breath in. Exhale, release slowly. Coming back into center. Moving yourself lying down, coming in towards final Shavasana. So we're going to be cut off in the next minute or so. So get yourself lying onto your back. Hug the knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a little bit of rock left to right. And then you'll find yourself into your final Shavasana. So kind of take up as much space as you need to. Any extra movements you want to do, and then please log back in after a few moments of your final Shavasana. So take at least 10 breaths and then click back onto the meeting once you kind of slowly get yourself sitting back up. So 10 breaths, I mean, you're taking your time, you're finding your connection. Inhale in, exhale out. That counts as 1. So this is your kind of Shavasana meditation. Once you feel ready, you find yourself nice and supported. You breathe in, you breathe out. That counts as your 1. You're just taking your time here, counting yourself up to 10 breaths before coming out of final Shavasana. And then once you're finished with your final Shavasana, coming up nice and slowly to sit up. You'll meet me back on Zoom for a closing comments, closing meditation, if you'd like to. So I'd hope to see a couple of you guys back here in a couple of minutes to end off class together. Otherwise, taking a nice deep breath in here. Exhale, sigh out the mouth as you're coming into your final breath.